Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Prize Fighters, Circus Freaks, and Gangsters. I'm Greta.
And I'm Jamie.
And once again, we are two former teachers here talking to you about the 19th century using the media of the 21st century. And once again, it is disguises and plots, and I don't have the alliteration. I feel terrible.
Well, you know what? I'll prep something next time, just in case. I didn't realize you.
Well, you've always got it. You've got it together.
I always sit down and I just sit and pen one real quick because I like to have it. It feels good.
It does. No, I had a million things about this episode that were fascinating. And then there was the story.
There really wasn't much of a story. This was just soap operas, everybody scheming. It's all nonsense. Half the time I'm like, who the hell? Oh, that's who that person is. They're having sex? Oh my God. That's right. We already knew that. We had heard of it and I hadn't seen it yet. So I was quite confused. I had to check my notes a lot.
Yeah, this episode cracked me up because you know how sometimes there are episodes when you're like, okay, they got a contract for 12 episodes, and so this one, they just shoved it in there, and it's like nothing happens. This one's the opposite. They're like starting off a whole bunch of hares in this one, and you're like, okay, so so only a little bit of what the hell is happening is dealt with this time.
Yeah. It's a mess, but it's a fun mess. It's a fun mess.
Oh, yeah. And we start off with Samuel walking into a saloon.
Samael? Because he's like the evil angel of doom. Dun, dun,
yeah,
dun.
Sure.
Samael.
Yes, and he comes in and he's just like, he's showing off the new gun. They've got the sweet lighting in the saloon. And this was one of those funny things. Like, this is why I suck at other languages, the colloquialisms. And so when Samuel gets his colloquialism wrong, I was like, yeah, I feel for you, man. Because he says, the time has come to meet the creator. I'm like, don't you mean meet your maker?
Yeah, I was really quite confused. And then he just starts blasting people.
Because I'm showed off my new toy, baby. Check me out. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's one way to test out a weapon. He's living up to his name, Samael, the devil.
And the bartender, like the look on his face when he sees this revolver. What kind of gun is that? It's a revolver. Ah, that's like the same face some rando made the first time they saw like an AK in action. They're like, well, the world as I know it's over. And he's right.
Well, it's a little bit more like the gun that preceded the AK, the German Wehrmacht gun that I don't remember the name of it, but
like the Sten or something?
No. It was a literal AK. It came out in 1945, but it wasn't machine stamped. Everything was individually machined, and so none of the parts were interchangeable. Otherwise, the Nazis would have slaughtered us all because. Yeah. But the guns consistently broke, so Kalashnikov just took that design and improved upon it to make the AK. So this was a prototype of a revolver because revolvers didn't drop until like 1854, I believe, something like that.
Right, but it totally makes sense. There were a couple of like bad dudes running around with exactly the prototypes, and especially he's like, next time 6 bullets.
Yeah, because this was only a 5
shooter.
A 5-shot revolver, like a 38 snub nose.
But still, you know, the bartender realizing that like sort of crime as he knows it is over if everybody's going to start showing up with these multi-shot guns, because up until now, basically you shot somebody and the fight was over. Like, there's no reloading, or you might have 2 shots and the fight was over.
You shot at somebody and then you started fighting, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you were in the South, you started tearing each other's eyes out and biting each other's noses off and
You pull out the Bowie knife,
yeah, so savagery. They were going crazy down there.
But yeah, just this moment in time, you're like, oh my god, the first revolver, like guns changed everything, and then every time. So it's like laser guns next? I don't know.
And just thinking of it, this would have been like the samurai when guns hit the samurai, because knife culture was so endemic to Mexican culture. It was brought in from the Spanish. The Spanish had a very long history of knife culture. And then all of the different civilizations of Mesoamerica also had a knife culture.
Right.
So when those two things combined, they were serious about knives to the point where they didn't even fight with their fists. So to see somebody who wasn't going to fire off one shitty shot and then come in with a knife, and you could take him because you're the skilled knife fighter, now you can just get shot by any asshole from across the room, and you won't even know he's going to shoot you because he's got his gun in his pocket or, in his holster, and you can't see it, like a revolver or even watching somebody load up a pistol or a cap lock pistol or what. I mean, it still takes loading in order to fire it.
Right? Yeah. And all sorts of things can go wrong. But I had never really sort of considered these pivotal moments in like, oh shit, it all changes now. And I love that they did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad we discussed it, because I didn't even really realize the importance of it until just then.
Meanwhile, back in New York, we've got a wonderful made-up railroad going to a wonderful made-up place. I'm guessing Yorkville, Pennsylvania is what...
It is not a made-up railroad.
The Mohawk and Hudson is real?
Miss, excuse me, miss. It was the very first railroad in New York, and it was the first railroad in the United States powered by a locomotive. Every railroad prior to that was either gravity-powered or powered by a horse.
So like the B&O Railroad, the Baltimore, Ohio Railroad, that was...
It must have come after this one, because I looked it up.
Okay. Holy crap. Well...
I'm married to a railroad enthusiast, so I've learned a tremendous amount about railroads in the last few years.
Okay, so, well, if it's not about food, then I have to stop guessing. And God bless America. Shut up. But I super did love that they are doing a very good job of, like, this is sort of California Mexican fashion, and this is New York American fashion. The hats and the bonnets and everything are very, very different. Our robber baron, his clothes are like a little off. Like the fit is too tight for him, and like the flares on his shoulders were too fluffy. But still, they're doing a great job of sort of separating, like, these are the North Americans, and then these are the Spanish, Mexican, Californians.
And I love the juxtaposition of the way they represented 19th century fashion in this as compared to Warrior or, say, like Deadwood or something like that. Like, the stylistic choices are subtle and yet so profound, like, in the result. So and the fabrics in this show, oh my God, like Mel actually sat and watched it with me today, because she doesn't give a shit about this show, but she actually sat and watched the fabrics. So
and they were throwing around with it. But yeah, we get another teeny weeny clue. This is as bad as the bear pins thing. Somehow, this railroad is connected to the Ramirez fortune, and I'm like, since he has a coal mine. But that's like dumb. Why would you care about California coal when you're opening a railroad in New York? What the hell do I know? I'm not going to guess, because I'm going to get in trouble.
I'm sure that this became part of the first transcontinental railroad line or something along those lines. They had to have already been talking about it, because as they were trying to connect both sides of the Union for commercial purposes, having a direct line of transportation was essential. Like, you needed to link them.
Yeah, because this is, a couple decades after Lewis and Clark. And so that idea of like eating the whole pie, like manifest destiny, that idea is definitely burbling around in different people's brains. And I think at this point, though, they're thinking more about like the Oregon Territory. I wonder how much California is actually like on everybody's radar in the 1830s. Maybe.
Is this I thought this was the 1840s. Are we in the 1830s?
Yeah. We're in like it starts off in like 1833 or something. And
yes.
So we're like the late 1830s, the early 40s, somewhere.
So it is
there.
probably
like
too early for this revolver, and for it, I would say it's probably too early for this revolver, frankly, because I did a lot of looking, and I mean, I'm not a gun enthusiast or anything like that, but it did not. They were really using, like, early in the 19th century, they were real big into revolving barrels. So, like, you'll see that with the Gatling gun and things like that. Right. And so this, I don't think they really, if they had a revolver, it probably would not have been firing well. Like, there was still a guy right before the actual revolver came into existence. He tried to use paper cartridges for a revolver, except that he people sued him to keep him from making the guns, and they only made one of them, and it was to show that firing off one cartridge would fire off all of them and then kill the user. So
yeah, though for. Like, these guys are getting the food and the clothes right, and a lot of like the sort of cultural stuff right. But you know what? If there is a mad genius gunsmith out there like messing around with revolvers, because you have to think it took like 10 years of screwing around or something before you got to anything that worked. And besides, these are evil rich geniuses, so who knows what they're up to, Jamie? Come on.
Oh, I don't have a problem with it. I just wanted to throw it. It's just a fun way to have a teaching point, that's all.
Oh, absolutely. And I do like the idea of this show playing around with the development of these new technologies. I love that. I love that. So new trains.
Plus, if you're a nerd like me, you're going to dive into Wikipedia and go, were there actually guns then? And, now I know these things. I can run out and tell the world. There you go.
So we get through that, and then we're down in the Zorro cave. And it's not just us who don't know what the hell's going on. They don't know what the hell's going on either. So that made me feel a little bit better.
Everybody's confused.
And so there's a lot of like, well, now that Ramirez is dead, what's going to happen to the miners? Don't tell May, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but you got to do something. The Chinese are suffering. And Diego's just like, Zorro will fix it. He'll do a thing. And May's she's having none of it. She's like, no, you rich fucks need to do something, okay? It can't always be Zorro. You as rich boy Diego, like, you do something.
Yeah, not wearing a mask. Somebody's not wearing a mask. Do something. Good. Do it now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's weird how, people who are out there doing good don't wear masks in public.
Right? Speaking of bad people doing bad things, not wearing masks, let's go visit the gobernador.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is the first moment where I was like, what in the hell is happening right now? Who is he? Who is she? What is happening?
Yes. But yes, so Diego comes in.
Oh, actually, like, I'm thinking of Lolita's dad and the Russian woman, which was right before the governor, where the governor's doing a painting. That's the scene you're talking about, right?
Yeah, no. I'm talking about when Diego goes into the governor and it's just like, I hear there's a coal mine for sale and I would like to purchase it.
Oh, yes, yes.
And he's like, it might be spoken for. And Diego's like, well, I happen to be able to read, and I read the law, and it says you have to auction it. And the governor's like, oh, shit. I mean, yeah, that'd be great. Obviously, we're going to do that. Yes. Okay. We'll hold an auction. Go away. Gomez, kill him.
There was a little bit of what was it, Mayor Smedley from Blazing Saddles? There was a bit of that going on, right?
Oh my God! And Gomez is just like, silence him like how? The governor is just like, you know what I mean. Do the thing.
That was such a trope in 80s movies, where the hitman would be like, so what do you exactly want me to do? Do that thing you do. Where that person doesn't
to the guy.
See him again. That thing.
In the place.
What do you want me to take him on a vacation? Like, they really plug it out.
Oh, that was good.
That would be a really fun way to rib your boss as a hitman, though.
Oof, yeah. And then,
gotta get your digs in where you can.
Busy little Diego, he's like, okay, well, obviously I can't trust the governor to be above board, so I'll go to the newspaper. The press shall save us.
And then the two best dressed reporters of all time. This is when I was like, Mel, just look at this, and she just sat down. She was like, all right, I'm in. I'm in.
What's she wearing? I mean, yeah, Harriet has some sweet dresses. They are interesting.
And the fabrics are so sumptuous, and you can see the texture and the detail and the weight of them and the way they drape. You can tell it's expensive. Like, it's just so amazing. And then, tonight we're going to watch TMZ Live and see that girl Mel just looking like a bum in Taylor Swift gear. And it's like, not everything has improved since the 19th century.
What? No. The fun thing about the newspaper guy is, like I talked about earlier, that, okay, he's portrayed as being a French dude, and so all through this episode he's just throwing in little French tags. Like, I can't understand him when he's speaking Spanish, but then he'll say stuff like, oh, I don't know, but he'll say it in French, and it jumps out at me.
Because he is French. He's an actual French actor. Like,
yeah, so he'll be just Spanishing along, and he'll be like, je ne sais pas. Au revoir. He'll just like toss, but it's so funny because it gets translated in the subtitles as just
I imagine
all
it would be
English,
hard to switch back and forth between languages that are so similar. It would be tricky to do if you...
I don't know. I've never really been fluent in two languages, though when I was pretty good in French, but French and English aren't that close. My tongue would get much more tangled up between Russian and English for whatever reason. I'm sure German and English would be the worst. For me at least, whenever I am trying to speak a foreign language and I can't remember a word, if I know the word in a different foreign language, I will insert that word. And so it becomes a horrific mishmash of like Chinese, Spanish, German, whatever other languages I happen to know. A little bit of French. 19th century.
Yeah. So I'm just imagining this guy, like, it must have been really hard to be like, it's so close to the language he knows. It's just like... just a little spin on it.
That would be interesting, the two together.
Oh, all right.
But yeah, so Gomez sees Diego go into the newspaper, and he's like, damn it, I can't kill everybody who reads the newspaper. So now we've been like 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and let's go to our 5th location already, and like we barely started the episode.
Yeah, and so it's already at soap opera, and now we're turning it up to Tyler Perry, like the third act of a Tyler Perry movie, where it's like everyone is now having an affair with everyone else. That's the level of soap opera we're at this point in the episode. It is wild.
And yeah, Lolita and Mama are having the discussion. It's like, you're going out with the captain, and she's like, can I love 2 people at the same time? No. But you gotta love Mama. She's like, yeah, sure, whatever, but you can only marry one. So chop chop, let's go.
Very, very matter of fact. But Lolita's outfit. Let's talk about this bolero jacket that she's wearing.
Yes.
Because I have just learned the word bolero. I knew it in the past. I've heard the word before, but I thought bolero was a hat, I think. And so, yeah, bolero is the jacket that a mariachi band would wear.
Well, bolero is like a job or a person, and so the hat that they would wear, the jacket that they wear, it has something to do with matador, and and bullfighting and everything.
Oh yes, so the bolero is it's a cowboy. It's like a vaquero or
Yeah.
And so there's two different cowboy cultures. There's the Tejano cowboy culture is charro, Charro, and then chara.
Okay, so like charro beans. Okay.
Yes, and so
okay.
So that is a different kind of rodeo. It's amateur rodeo where they're dressed like where they wear the bolero jacket and everything like that.
Okay.
And it's more about skill and precision and teamwork rather than like the American rodeo that we think of is very individualistic and it's all about speed. And so they're two very, very different ones. But the charro one, you can't receive any monetary compensation for it. Like it violates the precepts of it. So it's permanently amateur, but the costuming is very ornate and fun.
Okay, yeah, because we sort of think about like, oh, cowboy, American thing, and like there's kind of like one cowboy culture, but as you go through Central and South America, there's a whole bunch because there's like the vaqueros, and then there's the gauchos, and then you said the charros, and you've got all of these things, and then the ones we never hear about because they didn't ride around on horses were all of the African cowboys, and those are actually boys that tend cows.
Oh, like the Maasai and things?
Yeah. And because like early American culture, the very first people to look after large herds of cows were the West Africans who already knew how to do it.
And that's where we got the Texas Longhorn from.
Well, that was more the Spanish dropping off the cows in the 17th century, like the 16th and 17th century, and they're like, "Go be cows, and we'll hunt you like game when we're hungry." And so that's why they're like these skinny hip, longhorn, scary cows, as opposed to like the northern, like super calm dairy cows.
Yeah.
Like they were left in Texas to fend for themselves, and they're like, all right, I can stop a coyote.
As a kid, I was always like, why aren't there any aurochs anymore? I wish there were aurochs. And I'm like, no, I don't want any fucking murder cows. That's one problem. I just don't want to. I don't want to have that on my list of things to worry about today. Is some being eaten by a cow. That doesn't sound like a good way to go.
No. But yeah, so the bolero jacket, part of this like whole much richer, more complex cowboy culture of the Mexicos, of the New Spains.
And it really is a fun way to kind of see the intersection of these two very different, it's a couple of different cultures, because Mexico also has the French influence laid atop of it, which is something we rarely discuss. But that's an easy way for that Frenchman to have gotten to LA is via Mexico City or whatever, because people forget that Mexico was run by the French for 50 years or something?
Sort of, kind of, but the more probable explanation, or another explanation, is there was like a whole French culture along the Mississippi and like up the Missouri River. St. Louis was originally Saint Louis.
Oh.
There was a whole French colony there that was sort of like a support system for the voyageurs further up north. But when the
Lake Champagne,
Lake Champlain, up in New York, when the Dawes Act and all of that and the railroads came through, and it was like, okay, anybody who wants land, get it. They just like basically came through and steamrolled all the French culture in the middle of the U.S.
Oh, all right, yeah, well, yeah, with the exception of in Louisiana, so
right. But that was a big enough city, and the food was too spicy. You just like can't. Too weird.
And there was a ton of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
There were plenty of reasons to stay out of Louisiana.
But anyway, at first I was like, what the hell is up with that ribbon on Lolita's head? But then I was sort of thinking about 19th century fashion.
Well, describe her outfit. If you're going to say what the hell's a ribbon, you have to explain it.
Okay, so she's wearing the same orange dress that she's worn, or like that burnt orange reddish dress that she's worn several times, which I love, because that would have been real. She would have just like kept wearing the dress and like doing different things with it, including that super cool bolero jacket. And
which is like green. It's all embroidered, and it's green, and it's the burnt orange, like the dress.
Yeah, no, it's got kind of We would think of it as like sort of a cottagecore fabric now. It was sort of like this elaborate floral paisley-esque kind of thing. It was somewhat elaborate. But
it was pretty, I would say more than somewhat elaborate. That was a bit of a British understanding.
Well, and it was multicolored, which was a giant pain in the ass in those days as well. So yeah, that was an expensive piece of clothing. But yeah, she had this thin ribbon sort of like wrapped across her forehead twice, and then like some turquoise beads hanging down from it. And at first I was like...
And there was like a little flower on one side, right?
Yeah. And I couldn't really...
And then she wore a hat on top of this like headband with the flower. I kind of thought it was a vibe, but you weren't into it.
Well, at first I was I was just more like, what's going on? But if you look at 19th century fashion, like wrapping ribbons around foreheads and across hair and through hairstyles was a big thing. It's just I was used to seeing it in sort of more French and British fashions where they have their hair up. But
okay,
Lolita, she's
fashion forward.
Yeah.
So she's getting the fashion magazines probably 6 months late from France, but hell, they're still getting there, I bet.
But I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, it makes sense. And again, she doesn't have like a super skilled maid exactly up on all the fashion, so we're making do with what we do. But yeah, the hat. Yeah, you can't go out with your bow without your hat.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing because it's Bonnet Watch 2024, and we are deep into it. So I was ready. I was ready to start yelling at the screen and shaking my fist.
Yeah, but she wants to look nice. And besides, Monasterio has a hat, so she can't be like outdone. She's gotta keep up.
Oh, I didn't realize that there was a Cold War in hats that was going on in every relationship of the 19th century.
But yeah, we find out that they're going on a date, but they're engaged, so that's okay. They can go and be on a date by themselves if they're engaged.
Yes, and they're going on a date to the prison, which is where she wants to go. She's like, I want to see where you work, and he's like, I work at a fucking prison. Are you out of your mind? And she's like, I am out of my mind. Let us go.
He's like, I just need you to know I was an orphan. And when he said that, I'm like, he could be the next Zorro.
Yeah, and then he's like, and the army was the only way I could have a family in life. And it's, he is just, he's caught in the middle.
And then he's like, I'm feeling so conflicted because, I wanted to do good, but it turns out sometimes they want you to do bad things when you're in power. I'm like, he wants to be he's going to be the next, oh my God, what's going on here?
And then she just touches his face gently and says, well, I'm sure you'll do the right thing because you're a good man at heart. So whatever you do will be the right thing.
Enrique. Yes. And then Diego and May ride up, and I just love Lolita. She's like, so who is your companion that I saw at your house after dark?
Oh my God. So I even worked around Latin women, but I had never been I'd never seen what I was supposed to be looking for. So I'm sure I missed so much hilarious shit that was going on that was all looks. And so she's just speaking in this very clipped way, and everything about her body position, I'm like, I recognize that, but I had no idea what I was seeing when I was seeing it originally. And so, but yeah, there's a jealous Latin woman has a very particular demeanor and gimmick, and it's It's a thing.
She definitely does it. And so when Diego is like, yeah, it's my maid. And so the subtitle said she only speaks Chinese, but he says in Spanish she doesn't speak Spanish. I'm like, anyway, that was awkward.
But then the maid May proves that she does speak one word in Spanish because she looks at Lolita and goes, nasty. And
Yeah, and just the way she like does the like look down, like half-lidded eyes looking down her nose. It was
Yeah, it was amazing. She went from rags to, she adopted that Riches role in a hurry. She is like the haughty rich man's servant mode, like immediately.
Yeah. You're with a military person. Jeez.
Yeah, she can add Confucian classism to the regular old Spanish classism. She can really like read you a list of reasons why you.
That's true. Oh, very true. So then we get to switch to Na-Lin, who's like doing a memorial ceremony, but really she's just getting mad. She's doing this so she can get madder.
She's working up a good mad.
And she totally is. And we switch away from that. Like this episode had the most locations of any episode we've.
It's insane. Thank God they weren't giving us flashbacks, or I would have just thrown in the towel. I would have just quit. Would have been like having like some kind of acid trip that was very unintentional and unwanted.
But don't worry. Let's take a bath about it. Let's calm things down and hop in the bathtub where you make all of your important business decisions.
Yeah, but he's suddenly squeamish around the servants, which is odd. Like, because May walks in, and you said they don't even treat servants like human beings. So why is he acting all squeamish around May?
Because he's better.
Oh, I see. Yes. So.
Yeah. You know, he knows.
I was like
stuff.
When he introduced May, I was like, he wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have done that. I was shaking my finger.
Yeah,
at the screen.
no, he wouldn't have.
I know he wouldn't have done that. Greta told me he wouldn't have done that.
He would have just said, "Oh, this is the maid."
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole thing is like
he probably wouldn't even know her name.
Not normally, but of course, just like you get Mary Sue-isms and you get not like other girls. Diego is 100% not like other boys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He and I are in a race to see who can be green flag man more often.
But yeah, we do get the humor of like, obviously I do business in the bathtub so May can walk in on him. And then we hear about the clan of the bear. Rah!
Oh, yes. I immediately thought of Clan of the Cave Bear.
Me too. Thank you.
Boy, that was 2 hours we will never, ever, ever have back.
I read the book way too young. I never saw the movie.
Oh, my goodness. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, Clan of the Cave Bear was like, what was it, a 1982 movie or something like that?
Well, the book came out, so yeah, it would have been in the late 80s when the movie came out.
Would it? Okay. Yeah, I saw it on HBO when I was like in middle school. We stayed up super late because all the dirty movies were on late at night back in the day. So
all the naked films.
Yeah. So it was like a sleepover, and it's 2 hours of nobody speaking, and just basically occasionally punching a woman on the top of the head and then raping her by a fire. It was awful.
Yeah.
And was not. I don't recommend it. 0 thumbs up.
0. Oh, everybody agrees with you on that one. You may be an outlier in many ways, but not there, and I think you're right.
Yeah. Also, as anti-historical as it could be, Mel Gibson couldn't have directed that into less historicity.
So, yeah, we get to visit the prison. Monasterio is running through government funds, leaving all the candles burning all the time.
And creating a hell of a fire hazard. Just a lot of unattended candles.
Right? Is the prison all stone so we don't care? I don't know.
We're just going to burn up prisoners. We'll get more.
That's true. Yeah.
This place needs a cleaning anyway.
Right. And so there's hijinks going on somewhere else, and then, like, things are running around here. But all of a sudden, the only thing that really matters now is that one of the Zorros and an army shows up at the prison, and our poor Monasterio, just as he and Lolita are having a tender moment.
Yep. He gets shot in the chest with an arrow. Boy, this little attack scene, I realized that in movies you will hear arrows being shot at people. but you will never, like, you'll see a close-up of, like, somebody having thrown an arrow at somebody, but you'll never see an arrow arc through the air at somebody and embed itself in the battlements like it was doing in this show. They were shooting arrows. It was really cool. Like, that was badass.
Yeah. Like, I'll have to go back and watch the arrows, because, like, once he got shot, and I was like, so is Monasterio gonna peg out? Like, what? Once again, I'm like, what's going on? So now, like, the decision's made for her, and she's gonna be mad about it. I just didn't know. But yeah, if they were actually, so I feel like in the shots where the arrows were actually getting shot at the wall, you couldn't see Monasterio, like, you couldn't see the people, like, they were ducked down behind.
You couldn't see the people, but you could see these arrows arcing in, and they were embedding in stuff. So it was like they were shooting arrows from. I mean, they weren't shooting them hard, and they were, but something was happening. I want to know the behind the scenes on this, because that was badass. It looked so realistic. That
is one thing. Like, the arrow action in this show has been, like nothing I've ever seen. And I was wrong when I was saying they were filming it in Spain. I looked it up. They're actually filming it in a park in the Canary Islands. And so, yeah, they have a ton of outdoor sets. So, but yeah, they got some archers in.
Yeah, it's really fun to see. And also, this really kind of drove home. And then I had some travel show on after. It mentioned that the U.S. Revolutionary War was started by such a small number of people fighting. It was 700 British troops and 100 Americans. This is like getting 2 small high schools to get into a fist fight, and that starts a war. So, like, seeing these little, like, because it looks very piddly. It's just like, a couple of arrows, and then they run off, and it's like,
yeah.
Jesus, that's all it was? Like, I mean, it would be very annoying, and it would be obviously life-threatening, but it's not like the crazy shit we think about when we think about war now, where it's just like everybody is destroyed and died and smashed to rubble and bits. And
yeah, and in fact, like, at this point, you fought war out. You either fought it at a fortress or in a field somewhere. You, like, didn't fight battles in cities, like, around people. That was uncivilized.
Yeah. Also, you destroy the city. Where are we supposed to live after that? Like, use your fucking head.
Right. Yeah, so he gets shot, and it turns out it was high enough. It didn't really get him, and if there's one thing we know right now, Lolita has the hots for the nearest wounded guy.
Just any man who is engaged in the like the guy who was most recently engaged in gallantry in her presence is getting laid.
Right. Yeah.
If you could be commended by some government somewhere for gallantry, you're getting it.
Yep. And so at this point, we know she's got some nursing skills. Thank God. How is he not? I'm just glad they didn't show the removal of the arrow scene. I didn't need that, and I didn't get it, and I was glad.
I love it. They just snap off the arrow in every movie. They're just always with the snapping off, and I'm like, I feel like he would have just waited for somebody to pull that out of his chest. There was no need for him. He didn't need to fight anybody. There was no need for that to happen.
You snap that off because if you've got the big arrow out there, it's going to be like wiggling around in the wound. And that's going to fucking hurt.
Oh,
but the fact that he could just, like, snap it off that easily, I'm like, what? They're making, like, balsa arrows? Okay, sure, yeah, The whole arrow removal thing, I've read too much realistic stuff about that. Just, bah.
Yeah? Oh, because of the barbs? And then you got to cut that, like, X and do the whole... Yeah. What are you squeamish about? You're a science teacher. You're supposed to be, like, guts of steel.
I ended up being a chemistry teacher. Everything is nice and civilized and behaves itself in little test tubes. They don't scream and wriggle all over the place and bleed.
Oh, you're the terrifying one because you could pass organic chemistry. So, all right, Jesus.
No, my sister's the one who went in for stitching things up. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
I get so confused at this one. Okay, so Monasterio is wounded, and the newspaper got burnt down, and it turns out somehow Lolita's dad Tadeo is messed up with the dirty business with the Russians, and because now this is where he and Ivanova are like talking after they banged, and she's like, I don't get my information from the newspaper.
Yeah. Oh, and we also skipped that Zorro stopped the governor's henches from henching on his property and scaring him into not going to the auction. So
right,
and he knows the governor's behind it. So now he knows the governor's behind it, and yes, and that's when we get the great quote. A man who that she had a quote in her village. Ivanova said, "A man who gets rich in a year should have been hanged 12 months ago."
Yes, yeah. Like, a little greed moves things along, but too much is always a problem.
Yeah. I just thought it was such a great quote and very timely, and just makes me wonder how much we need some of our billionaires.
Yeah, and the fact that so many of them somehow make money off of getting people angry at each other.
Yeah. Seems to be their primary method of making money.
Yeah, like, isn't that like how you make money in Silicon Valley these days? You just like create something so people can yell at each other virtually and like profit.
Yeah,
somehow. I don't know.
Like underwear gnomes, and the step 2 is just like question marks, and step 3 is profit.
Thank you. We've been watching the same shows.
We're old.
But all I know is that Los Angeles right now is the place to be if you're in construction, because the whole frickin' town, the newspapers burned down, the governor's mansion got exploded.
Well, I think that was probably, from what we know about California in that era, if you were in construction, you were going to be busy all the time. Because if it wasn't an earthquake knocking shit down, it was always burning down.
And then people are moving there too. So yeah, you just throwing up buildings, but
drunken maniacs covered in like TNT dust and like nitroglycerin juice.
Yeah, and so even though the governor's mansion got blown up, apparently the room where he does his weird exploitative painting, that was fine. That was great.
He was a shockingly good painter. I'm not, but I guess that's supposed to show that even though he's a monster, he has refinement. That's always like an evil guy thing. It's like,
well, a man who has that selection of vests for all of his formal occasions, he is a man of refinement.
That is true. Although I think the man quaking in fear, who was the subject of his painting, might dispute the fact that he was a man of refinement.
Yeah, that kid was just like, and when he's like, oh yeah, I want to paint them before I wipe them off the face of the earth, just as a little token of memory. Yeah, but they're toast. I was just like, jeez.
Yeah, it's like Teddy Roosevelt trying to kill all the animals before somebody else killed all of the animals.
Before somebody else does, yeah. I need one of everything before they're all gone, which I am doing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I feel like people wouldn't have been so into collecting Pokemon if everybody else couldn't have the card after all of them had been collected.
There you go. So now we're at location 87?
Yes, Diego has been kidnapped by the clan of the Cave Bear.
I don't know, before we go to that, he goes to the Chinese and recruits Mr. Chang. He's like, hey, dude.
Oh, yeah, and that bizarre and uncomfortable. That was a really awkward conversation. The fact that he wanted May back was creepy, and I didn't enjoy that. And then the fact that, Diego just was like, what? That's absurd. No, we're not going to do
And he's like, yes, you're fine, then I'll just take your sister. And May's just like, finally she gets a word in edgewise. But yeah, she's like, I'll tell on Diego to you, or I'll tell on the governor for you, or whatever. She's like,
Yeah. But she basically made out like, somebody's going to come here and end you if you do that. So I wouldn't do that. She was like, go ahead and test me. You can cross that line if you want. I'd like you to. I don't like it.
Part 2 of I'm rich now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's settle some debts.
But basically, Diego's like, well, Zorro can't fight this alone, and I can't get Nalin to do it because she's crazy. So...
Yeah.
So, who do we also need to bring into this mix? There's not that many French around, so let's get the Chinese. They're a useful mob.
Yeah. And they are an extremely useful mob in this instance.
And how are you supposed to stay disguised as Zorro if you dump gold on the ground? Like, everybody already knows. Zorro throws gold on the ground. Like, you're giving yourself away, man.
No, but he threw that gold on the ground because he was like, this is for you to pay off May and the other shit. It was kind of like in True Romance. He did kind of that move where he's like... And so it was contemptuous, and he was dumping it on the ground because he was being like, go ahead and pick up this money off the floor like the fucking scumbag you are. You money-grubbing piece of shit. Yeah, that's what it was.
And then location 112, we're in the graveyard. And there's another mysterious note. Buy these masses for Don Alejandro. It just, like... Somebody is throwing more money at the church, and just there's a mysterious
paper being so scarce that you find some paper on the ground and you pick it up and read it. I love reading, but that's the only situation where I would pick up a piece of paper off the ground and read it, rather than just being like, somebody left some fucking trash on the ground, picking it up and throwing it away.
Well, this is still before wood pulp paper. The only paper is...
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, that's a wild thing to think of. It would be like,
so there's no
reading
books.
Every receipt you found on the ground.
Right, but there's only one receipt because people aren't throwing paper away. They're using it 1,200 times before they let it go. But yeah, so we're in the graveyard. We have a mysterious covered wagon. This is where Diego gives a 7-year-old an errand. Yeah, go grab my horse, ride all the way back to my ranch, talk to the music.
Yeah, and that kid was great.
Can you imagine an American show asking a 7-year-old to do that many things?
So there was a show in Japan that was on like 10 years ago that popped up on Prime a while back, and I watched 5 minutes of it. And it was, they would take like 5 or 6-year-old kids in Japan and give them complex tasks and then have them go out into the world to try to complete them. And they were remarkably unsuccessful in every single regard, I think. So I think the chances of this kid actually making it to, this is the most fanciful part of this entire show. You had kids. Would you trust a 7-year-old to do any of the steps of this, right?
Actually, a 7-year-old, yeah. Especially if, they had been around horses and stuff, you think about kids who've just grown up around horses, but how is he going to get all the way up on Tornado? That's a big fucking horse. So yeah, that part was pretty fanciful, but I
don't know, maybe jump off a fence.
The
horse would just go back to his house, right?
Well, it is Tornado, so he is the Wonder Horse. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, horses do know where they live too. I mean, when I was in Mongolia and first rode a horse, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and the horse knew where it was going mostly. I mean, I could give it.
And how old of the kids were riding horses when you were there? Little squirts.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they were just like baby children. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a 7-year-old on a horse, you're like that. You couldn't tell a 7-year-old.
Oh, I'm not saying the kid couldn't have ridden a horse. Yeah. I'm saying he would have fucked up every other part of that thing.
Oh,
the message would have been a mess. He probably would have forgotten it. He would have stopped to pee 3 times and then probably gone off and chased butterflies or some shit. I just don't see a child maintaining the focus for that length of time. But it was for Zorro. Maybe
it's for Zorro, think about how focused kids can be on, doing the thing for their hero. So, it was
okay.
Zorro. So.
All right.
And money. He did get
and money.
And money, yeah. So, yeah, and so Zorro, Diego, yes, he's still Diego. Yes, chloroform.
Gets kidnapped. He gets either chloroformed or ethered, because chloroform's really hard to apply, right?
Right.
This is what I wanted to ask the chemistry teacher, and so I was like, maybe it was ether, because ether would have been easier to knock him out with. Chloroform, you really have to hold over the mouth for a really long period of time, and then you can kill them.
Well, and I'm trying to, I can't remember off the top of my head if chloroform was a thing yet, but ether definitely was a thing at this point. But they did have to hold...
Yeah.
That is one thing I did like about him getting ether chloroform. Knockout juice. Holding the knockout juice over his face. They had to hold it there for a while. It wasn't like in a lot of movies where you just smack it on their face and they flop down. They held him there for a while before he finally went out.
Yeah. That was cool.
And then we have the mob of the Chinese going to location 136 in this episode, keeping the Russians on board. No, you can't leave the ship. Rah! And so you've got the auction going, and then you've got the Inquisition in the other cave, the bear cave.
Did you understand what this riot was about?
So when Diego went to Chang,
I got it now, but I didn't get it when it was happening. I was like, "What the fuck what is going on?" But I got it.
Yeah, no, I was like, the Chinese are writing. Okay, that's what he was talking about. It was like, I'm recruiting the Chinese, and so there's like a mob of Chinese going somewhere, and so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so they were going to go block the Russians from going to go get involved in this auction, because the whole plan was that a silver mine was supposed to get auctioned off to the Russians. Except now Diego has thrown a wrench in the works, because he has stalled the Russians from getting off their ship. Why they're staying on a ship, who the fuck knows? Yeah, so the Chinese are preventing them from getting off their boat, so they can't get to the auction.
Yeah, not so tough now, are you, Andreevich, huh? You can't just like wade through a bunch of Chinese, huh? But if they've got those big ass belaying pins, I guess you don't want to mess with them.
Yep. Hey, that was a thing back then. People were brawling with those things.
Yes. And so we get like the action-packed section of this. You know, the Russians are racing to the auction. Bernardo's racing to the auction. We've got the Inquisition, and we're having the auction because everybody who like came there for the auction, they're like, okay, late, whatever. We've gossiped enough. Like, chop chop. We do have other things to do. We have dinners to get to. Come on.
We've got stuff. Rich people stuff.
Right? And they're sending Diego home, and so they chloroform him again. They really like knocking people out in this show. Like,
I was wondering, I wonder what the hangover on ether is. It's got to be god awful.
Oh, it can't be good. I think did twice in a row.
He would just be. This would be war. It almost is like, you know what? Just hit me over the head like you guys used to do with the pommel of your sword.
Yeah.
Like, I'll take the CTE. Like, I don't need more hangover.
Yeah. Oh, and so Bernardo's like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But like, how is he going to stop this auction in time? And we get the slow motion gavel.
Yeah, as all of these things are coalescing together. And then, yes, Bernardo shows up and fires off a gun dramatically and then gives the winning
bid.
Bid, yeah. Yes, bid.
He's like, don't worry, it's just a one-shot pistol. Everything's okay.
I just can't speak, damn it.
Yeah. And so now the governor's like, oh, God, he's really thrown a wrench in this. And so, of course, do we get slow-mo gavel for the Russians? No, I'm sorry. You get a regular motion gaveling.
Yep. They're out.
And so the Carmen de la Madrid, one of the like other rich ladies, one of the ones who had visited Diego's house and is like, us rich people have to stick together. We are the true children of California. Like, she was making eyes at a couple of other people, and so I couldn't tell if they were mad at Diego. Like, I know the Russians were mad at Diego, but I couldn't tell if they were mad at Diego for buying it, or like they were mad about the Russians were like, anyway, too many people making shifty eyes at each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. But then we cut to the next day or whatever. But later. Yeah, later. They're all at dinner, and Diego is all of a sudden like, well, I guess he would have been Garibaldi, like, because Garibaldi was contemporary to this, like a Che Guevara type, because he's like, yeah, we're doing profit sharing at the mine, and they're getting days off, because they're doing all the hard work, and they get the money, and everybody's like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Who are you, Bernie Sanders, you freaking socialist?
It was awesome. I loved it.
And then he's like, to California, toast to me, and everybody's like, okay, clink, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole rising tide lifts all ships it's fallen on deaf ears right now.
Yep. But yeah, today I was just like, God, it's all going wrong. She's getting married to Monasterio. Diego's got the gold mine, or the coal mine, and he's turning into a socialist, and it's all slipping through my fingers. Even my Russian chica is like, giving me lip.
And Lolita is just growing more and more in love with the captain. Like, every time we have a scene with them now, she's just, like, mooning over him. She's like, she's like a high school girl, like, with the singer of the band.
Yes. You take care of yourself. You be careful. You're hurt. Call me when you get home.
Yeah.
And so after Monasterio had apologized to Lolita, now Diego's got to apologize to Lolita. She's like, they're fighting over me.
They will fight in every way they can over me.
Yes, and so while Diego's trying to, like, say, I don't know, I was like, is he going to say, I just want you to be happy? Like, I didn't know what. And then, but we're never going to find out because noise of a scuffle off in the distance. And Monasterio is being attacked.
Yes, he, by now, Zorro is attacking the captain. And so, I thought maybe it could have been, but then it can't be because he wears glasses. So. It's the one and only Zorro over there.
And so we've got Zorro, and everything's at a standstill. But you know who isn't stuck? You know who can take action right now?
Lolita.
Shooting.
She has been waiting for a moment to shoot this lady since she first laid eyes on her, I'm sure.
Yeah, because she hurt Diego, and now she's hurting her fiancé, and I'll kill you like the puma you are.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Oh, wow.
Yep.
There you go.
And then, yes, it's like, Zorro's a woman.
The Zorro's like...
But then Diego totally has the realization. He's like, wait a minute. I was just in this wagon. What's going on?
Oh, yes, the kidnapping wagon was owned by Lolita's dad.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Tadeo's doing the shifty eyes, like, uh-oh, now Zorro's been caught, and she's going to have to get married, yeah, so much is going on. But we definitely got the shot of Diego going,
Except he's now, that our good captain is not going to accept the fact that his fiancée caught Zorro. And so he's going to start saying, we can't get married because I haven't earned it yet. And I've got to do something else, like I gotta topple this evil governor or something. You know he's going to.
Oh my God, you're
right. For a fact
I had to catch Zorro. You ruined it for us.
Yep. that machismo's gonna get in his way.
We shall see, but not today, because how do we end it? We end it with Samuel bookending this episode with, like, the agent, and we're going to go pick up a mysterious woman. I don't know. We're introducing somebody else mysterious.
Just the idea of traveling to these places with no air conditioning, with the mosquito situation just being wildly out of control. I can't.
That's why you wear the wool suit, to protect you from the mosquitoes.
God, it must have been bad. It must have just been the worst.
I don't know. Well, that was one hell of an episode, full of, like, did we solve anything? No, we just added, I think.
We just added to the confusion. Like, there is more confusion now than I've ever had watching a show. I feel like the people who used to watch Lost. Were you one of those people?
I watched a couple episodes and I'm like, I can't care. I don't care.
Back then, we really were, like, you watched what was on TV when it was on TV, and it had to be followable.
Right.
So, like, you couldn't just drop into that show, and people would be like, well, you gotta do this, and you gotta do that, and you gotta buy these DVDs, and it's like, I don't want to buy in on a TV show. I just want to be entertained for a half hour.
It is actually kind of wild to think about how recently television that, like, had a plot arc to it actually happened. Like, most of the TV we grew up watching, basically the beginning and the end of the show was the same, because it was important that whenever you sort of dropped into the show, because you could miss episodes all the time, and so, like, then you wouldn't be lost if you sort of ended the same at the beginning and the end. And so, like, some things would change season to season, but it wasn't like these intricate story arcs like that.
Yeah, no, they couldn't have them.
And so, yeah, like this is really showing its true telenovela colors in that like every episode just gets more complicated.
Yeah, you need a Cliff's Notes. One thing I really love on Amazon, when you pause it, it gives you the actor's name and their name in the show. So then I'm like, all right, so that's who that is.
Yeah, that's how I figured out who Gomez was. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, not another like extra guy. I have to. Oh no! That's the guy who's supposed to kill. Okay, I got that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Cliff Notes.
Yeah, I was even looking at Samael at first. I was like, who the hell is this man? And why is he shooting everybody in this bar? What the fuck has happened?
Yeah, you didn't recognize him, but you recognized his gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah. So, can you believe... Okay, so that was episode 6. This is a 10-episode season. We are going to have so many cliffhangers at the end of 10, but for God's sakes, please wrap up the bear pin story. Please.
Yeah, we got to be done with this. We got to be done with this Bear Clan thing
at
some point.
But at least it makes sense. Those like scratches are like supposed to be like bear claw scratches, is what I'm guessing. Like the 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
I just like the bear thing. I originally thought was Russian, and then
yeah, me
I was
too.
like, oh, it's the bear on the flag. So.
Oh.
Yeah, on the California flag. It's the
yes.
bear, the golden bear on the California flag.
Duh.
And isn't one of the Cal teams called the Golden Bears?
The UCLA Bruins, yeah.
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 There you go.
And I'm sure there's golden bears around. But of course, like the bear that was like native to California is like all extinct from everybody going out there and deciding they needed a bearskin rug or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got to get yours before somebody else gets it.
Right.
Yeah. FOMO, as the news just...
How is that still a term? Okay, stop it. Yeah.
They use it on the news.
What?
On the news. It's been on the news. It's horrifying. We have failed as teachers, and we need to teach better. So this is what we're doing.
Actually, so maybe like TikTok getting out there and doing what the news wants to try to do, but better. Maybe that'll get news to like be like, wait. This is not our job. Our job is to do news. So maybe that'll get them to straighten up and fly.
Yeah.
Right. Probably not, but I can always hope.
Yeah. Oh, wait, Jon Stewart is not Dan Rather. Holy shit, we were just confused this whole time.
You gotta fund newsrooms for them to be good.
Yep. Well.
All right.
Have you seen... Speaking of that, I mean, we all need to pour more money into PBS.
Okay, well, that information situation is very sad. However, you are a much better information situation. So where can they get good information from you on the internet?
Yay! I'm on the Instagrams at Plague of Strength, where you can follow me along with 24,000 other people, including Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, yes, I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm supporting the household now. We're not tipping people $20 when we walk through the door of places, but we're doing all right. So
we're not getting evicted. All right.
Yeah. So how about you? What are you up to?
So you can find me on my podcast, The History of American Food, and I'm playing around on the threads a lot more these days. That's mainly where you can find me, recently talking about why we have black olives in Mexican food. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about jelly and figuring out why do we have jam and jelly and fruit spread and blancmange and how they are all related.
What is the difference between jam and jelly?
You'll just have to listen to my episode to find out.
No! When's it drop?
Well, by the time this comes up, it will have already come out, but that is what I'm working on right now.
Yay! Well, I'm looking forward to that because, and that goes with your whole canning thing. Canning,
yes.
Cans rule everything around me.
There you go.
Cool. You guys have an awesome week, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Bye. You can always reach out to us by email at pcgpodcasters@gmail.com. And you can find more dope beats like this one from royalraven.com.